Hey, what's up guys? I'm Greg from Greg's Try Journey, and today I'll be showing you how you can go from this out-of-the-box wiry mess to this tidy looking cockpit. Now in my opinion, looking after your bike, it's all about the finer details. And now that I've got my bike fitted into a much more permanent position, there's one final thing left for me to do to make sure I can get the most out of it. And that is some all too important cable management. So let's go get this thing tidied up.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So in the case of my Speedmax CF8 disc, it is equipped with Shimano Di2 electronic shifting. So if yours is the same, here's how I went about tidying up the cockpit to reduce the amount of exposed cables and all the bunching that was going on in the front of the cockpit. So one of the advantages of cleaning up the cabling when it comes to electronic shifting is that unlike mechanical shifting, we don't need to worry about any sort of cable tensions or any of that kind of stuff. We can go right ahead, grab a few simple things, and get straight to work. So this is a simple task, but you will want to have these things handy to clean up the front of your cockpit. So the first thing you will need is a hex key set. You will need a Torx bit set, small zip ties, a cutter or some pliers, and some patience. All right, here we go. Firstly, you'll want to go ahead and open up the bento box and remove the storage snake.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Once complete, take a look on the inside of the bento box and identify the two tiny black Torx screws. If you're standing on the right side of the bike like I am, they'll be located in the bottom right corner and top left corner. Go ahead and take your Torx bit and gently loosen those screws. Once you've loosened them, slowly pull up on the bento box and put it off to the side. Make sure you don't lose track of those screws. Now, you'll have a much clearer view of your cables and their routing path. Next, take your cutters and go ahead and remove any existing tie wraps. Please be careful not to pinch the Di2 or hydraulic brake cables when doing this, as it can damage the cables. Also, go ahead and remove the joining clip that holds the right side base bar Di2 cable to the rear brake cable. Once all the ties are removed, inspect and ensure each cable is moving freely. Next, remove the end caps from both aerobars. The right side should come freely quite easily, but on the left-hand side, where the junction box is located, you'll need a 2.5mm hex tool to loosen the cap. Be gentle when you're removing it. Don't pull too hard or too fast. Now that all your cables are exposed, pause for a moment to understand and evaluate which cable is which and which one does what. This is good to know in case you ever need to address an issue in the future. In my case, I went one step further and even loosened this top tube plate that separates the cables with using a hex tool. This allowed me to identify the second junction box in the top tube and see how much remaining slack I have on each cable. Now that I know what I'm working with, I can start tidying up. Now before you go ahead and do this, remember that you need to leave some slack to account for steering your bike. If a cable ends up too tight, you'll lose a ton of radius when you're turning. Or, worse, you'll risk unplugging or pinching a Di2 cable in the middle of a ride or a race. Let's start with the right aerobar first. This is the simplest one to work with, and it's just a standalone cable that won't be connecting to anything else. For this, you'll need one thing, a tie wrap. To start, go ahead and identify the amount of slack you will need. From there, make a nice loop or two with your cable. From there, fasten a tie wrap onto the looped cable. Once tight, go ahead and cut the excess tie wrap off, and then push the looped excess cable back up into the aerobar. If you need a little more slack, just pull on the end that comes out of the bar. Next, We're going to continue with the right side and tidy up the base bar Di2 cable and fasten it cleanly to the rear brake cable as to make it appear as one. To do this, go ahead and grab the cable joining clip we had removed earlier, and also another tie wrap or two. First, fasten the joining clip to both cables the way we found it earlier. You can slide it back and forth to your optimal position. Once that's done, cleanly line the thinner Di2 cable along one side of the brake cable and very loosely loop around 2 tie wraps. Leave some slack so you can slide them back and forth. Once the Di2 cable is nicely lined along the proper side of the brake cable, go ahead and fasten both your tie wraps. You can cut the excess right away or just go ahead and wait until the end. Alright, let's move on to the left side of the bike. This side is a little simpler as there's not much you can do in terms of the brake cable there. You just have some cleaning up to do in terms of the cable that leaves the junction box in the aerobar. Like we did on the right side, we just need to reduce the amount of slack the cable currently has. To do this, hold up the junction box and find the cable that leaves the junction box and goes into the top tube. Gently pull on it as to retrieve the cable and thread it inwards towards the aerobar. Once you've got most of the cable pulled up, double check you've got enough slack. Like we did on the right side, make a loop with the excess and add a tie wrap to the folded cable and tighten it. From there, go ahead and cut off all the excess tie wraps. Alright, next, go ahead and grab a hex tool again and then start to push the cables up into the aerobar. I found it helpful to use the hex tool to gently help guide the cables up deeper into the aerobar without forcefully bunching them. From there, put the M cap and junction box back onto the aerobar like you had it earlier. Use the hex tool again to tighten the screw and fasten it back into place properly. Alright, we're just about done here. Next, go ahead and replace the screws from the plate on the top tube. Again, always be sure you don't have too much cable tension. You can never recheck your cables too many times. Go ahead and replace the end cap onto the right aerobar. Lastly, refasten the bento box back onto the top tube the way we had it earlier. Once fastened, go ahead and return the snake back into the top tube. Double check that you can turn your stem from side to side, and there you go.
So, enjoy taking care of your bike. Take the time to understand how it works and how you can personalize it. Make it to your liking. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you, and if it has, please let me know in the comments below. If you have any questions that I can help answer, feel free to drop those below as well, or go ahead and shoot me a DM on Instagram. That's at Greg's Try Journey, and I will be more than happy to help you out. If you haven't yet, be sure to check out my unboxing video and my most recent Speedmax bike fit video as well. And if you have any video suggestions that you'd like me to make, feel free to drop those in the comments below as well. It's really going to help me out with some new ideas. All right, that is it for me. As I like to say, keep having fun while you swim, bike, and run, and I will see you later.